Hey, I'm Jason Benfield from Blueprint. Today we're going to talk about one of the most critical components of Agile, which is transparency. Now, a lot of times on Agile projects and in Agile environments, when we talk about transparency, we focus more on transparency from the development team, from the execution team, up into management. So making sure that we're making the velocity available to those who want to consume it, being able to show task status, user story status to different stakeholders that are associated from the project. But one of the other most critical aspects of transparency in Agile is actually transparency from the business side of the organization to your execution team. So we want to do things like make a business objectives model available for consumption by the development team, so the development team understands why the user stories are prioritized the way that they are, by associating them with business problems that have a high amount of impact, really important risks that have to be taken care of, or just a dependency that needs to be resolved. So we want to make that prioritization mechanism transparent and available to the development team so that they really understand why it is that they're working on something next. And they can also call the product owners out a little bit if they're switching the prioritization around in the backlog on a pretty frequent basis. The other reason we want to be transparent from the business side is just to provide the development team a little more context around why it is that they're developing something. So, for example, if we're working on something that's compliance related, in our requirements management tools, we might define a regulation that we're trying to adhere to, a regional interpretation around that regulation. We might have some compliance and some governance processes that we're trying to put into place in order to meet the needs of that regulation. We've got some risks identified. We have some non-functionals identified, maybe how often an audit is expected to happen or how quickly data needs to be able to pull from a repository. And then finally, that links down to a user story. So instead of just giving the development team a user story in an execution tool like a Rally, let's provide them with the entire context so that they've got the full scope of the effort in mind and they really understand what the core goals are that we're trying to achieve throughout this compliance effort. You can also see this type of pattern come to play when we have an enterprise architecture developed. So really making kind of the analytical, the analysis side of a project available to the development team is incredibly important. Blueprint does a great job at allowing people to define these types of models and make them available to a development team, and we integrate quite well with tools like Rally and Jira on the execution side. So if you'd like to know more, please contact us.